You're listening to Sox in the Basement, a production of the Broadcast Basement Limited, where every show is 30 minutes of good and comes from a basement bar on the south side of Chicago. Pull up a stool, pour a cold one, and join us right now for Sox in the Basement. Heard everywhere podcasts can be found, and always at soxinthebasement.com. Sox in the Basement brought to you by Cork and Kerry at the Park, 33rd and Princeton. Get out there this weekend for the final homestand against the Padres. Maybe we can start winning again. These guys are crushing my dreams of not losing 100 games the way that they have been playing. The last 9 games, they got to win 6 of them. That's crazy to me. No matter how it goes, though, get out to Cork and Kerry at the Park. It'll be a nice weekend. Award-winning menu of burgers, ballpark favorites, extensive bar with rotation of craft beers, familiar favorites, spirits, and wines. Your home base for White Sox pregame, postgame, and in-game viewing parties. Just a great staff there. Just a great time at 33rd and Princeton. And Sox in the Basement, it's our official home. Our proud sponsors, Cork and Kerry at the Park. See more at corkandkerry.com. And happy birthday to my sister Gina. I have never given Gina a shout out on a show for her birthday, but for some reason today I just felt like it was time. And also enjoy your day off to Ed. So instead of Ed on the show today, it will be James Fox of FutureSox, because I want to talk about what we've learned, what we have coming, what the plan should be in the off season. Should we be positive? Is this what we wanted when we started the season? What's the base like for this team, and how do we feel no matter how it's going here in September? Look, I wanted them to finish strong. They looked like they were going to finish strong. I'm a little disappointed in losing all of these games in a row here in the middle of this month. When does it stop? But when it does stop, and however they finish record-wise, how do you feel about this season? James is going to help us work that out. Do not forget, if you missed it last week, all this offseason, we're going to be bringing back the Sox in the Basement $1,000 guest bounty. How this works is, you get me a guest. Guest could be a minor league baseball player that's really funny. Guest could be somebody that's in baseball or used to be in baseball at an executive level or something like that, or has a really cool story or a really interesting thing about them. Or it could be a major motion picture star. It could be a big time radio artist. It could be a player on this team or on another Major League Baseball team. There are no rules to this. The last winner of $1,000 when we did a guest bounty 2 years ago was the guy who brought us David Sampson, who expanded on that story about what Jerry Reinsdorf told him when he made the comments along the lines of, you want to finish in second place. And that was a great interview, and actually beat out Liam Hendricks and Jake Berger and others that offseason for the $1,000. The $1,000 is voted on by the fans after they've listened to all of these guests in the offseason. But you get your shot by reaching out to us through soxinthebasement.com. Couple different ways to do it. Voicemail, you can send us a message. Go to soxinthebasement.com. Reach out. Just make the connection for us. Don't throw me a name like, hey, Chris, you should have Anna Kendrick on. And I would be like, I would love to have Anna Kendrick on. I've always been in love with her. But if you don't have Anna's number and I can't get her on the show, that doesn't qualify you for it, okay? You have to actually have a connection to her, or, say one of the players on the team. Lenyn Sosa. You're like you're buddies with Lenyn Sosa. You get him on the team, you could win the $1,000 guest bounty. So how do we feel about this team? How do we feel about this team as the season winds down? What do we think about this season? James Fox of FutureSox on here in moments to talk about it, but let's you and I talk about it for a moment. I look at this team, and I was thinking about this just recently. I think this team right now, this organization right now, if I eliminate Jerry Reinsdorf as the owner, if I take him out of the equation for just a moment, I just look at the front office, how the front office is structured, how the international scouting is structured, how the pitching guru Brian Bannister is doing things, how Ryan Fuller is handling things with hitting development, and the results that I'm seeing right now, and the young base of players that we have, which are not good enough to go win a World Series with. You're going to have to add players, but the base that you've established and the systems that you're putting into place, I feel more positive about the long-term future of this team than I think I ever did with Rick Hahn and Kenny Williams. Now, you might think I'm crazy to say that out loud, but I do. I do, because I'm seeing minor league ball players getting developed, getting up here and making an impact. I'm seeing young guys that were acquired, maybe in AA or AAA, at a level where another team had touched them, but they weren't a finished product. The Sox able to finish that. I'm seeing development on the pitching side. I'm seeing development on the hitting side. You know, you watched Colson Montgomery essentially become a basket case, and you saw this team actually find a way to get him to the majors and then start hitting bombs. And he's not a finished product yet, but I couldn't even imagine that happening under a Kenny Williams or Rick Hahn team, and the way that things were structured and the people that were in the front office putting things together. There's a lot of positivity on this team. They do have to go out and make some moves, though. They do have to do some things in the offseason. They do have a team that has enough of a core. They could be competitive next year. You know, they put a lot of teams in there for the wild card. A lot of teams get in right now. I mean, let's just take a look right now at the standings here in Major League Baseball as I sit here. And this is before Friday's games, even though this show comes out on Saturday. And hopefully you got video. I've got the Xfinity guy coming. I'm upping the internet here at the new studio. I think we're going from like 200 megabytes per second to 2,000. So I'll finally be able to get videos up and do a lot of fun things, and all the stuff that I was doing before at the 9-foot homemade oak bar in the old studio is finally, hopefully, going to be coming back here in the new studio. But look at what we've got in the standings right now. In the wild card race, your division leaders are the Blue Jays, the Tigers, the Astros, and the Mariners. And then you have the rest of your wild card teams. And I'm telling you right now, some of these teams, think about the White Sox. Think about the core. In fact, hold on a second. I'm not saying that right. I'm going to say that I looked at the wrong thing. I'm looking at the wild card standings. Your AL East leader is the Blue Jays. You have the Tigers. You have the Astros. Those three are your three leaders. The Yankees are a wild card right now. They would be sitting in the wild card spot. Now, I think those four teams are really damn good. I think that the Mariners, who are also tied with the Astros right now in the standings, really good. So those five teams, I don't know if you get to be as good as them. But can you be as good as the Red Sox? I think you can get to the Red Sox level. I think in the offseason here, you can find a couple of bats and continue to develop your pitching and go out and get some veterans. The Guardians are only a game and a half out of the wild card right now. You could be in that position next year. I don't think you're that far off from them. I don't think you're that far off from the Rangers, who may have finally gotten to the point of wild card elimination, but they're not out of it yet. They're close, but they're not out of it yet. I think that bottom end of the wild card, I don't think it's that far away from your team if you're willing to go out and spend some dollars. And I'm not looking for you to get the $200 million because I know your owner is cheap Jerry Reinsdorf, who has never run this team properly. But I do think that you can go out there and just have, a bottom third payroll that doesn't create problems with contracts you can't get rid of when the young guys get here. You could sign some short-term contracts. You might find somebody long-term that you think is going to fill a role on this team now and when it gets even more competitive. And you can go out there and you could be one of those teams in the running. You could be at least the Royals, who are hovering around 500. They're going to miss the wild card, but they were in the race most of the time. Imagine if the Royals got as hot as the White Sox did in August and the beginning of September. Where could they be now? What if this team plays next year and they kick it off the way they kicked off the second half? They kicked that off in the first half. And you've added some bats and you've got some veteran pitching and the guys that James Fox is going to talk about. In fact, let's get to him right now. Before we do that, Window and Door Superstore of Oak Forest, another proud sponsor of Sox in the Basement. For exterior windows, doors, patio doors, and storm doors, look no further than Window and Door Superstore of Oak Forest. With no high-pressure sales, they're not in your kitchen. They don't have their feet up on your couch. You go in and see them. You're not looking at a picture in a book. You're seeing everything in full living color. You can touch it. You can ask questions about it. There's an owner in the showroom and on site during the install, of which there are all Window and Door Superstore installers. They do not farm out their work. They've been doing it this way for 40 years in Oak Forest since 1985 with all major brands, custom custom made, no stock items. That way you get a perfect fit. Window and Door Superstore of Oak Forest is a half block east of 159th and Ridgeland at 6280 159th Street. See more at windowdooroakforest.com. And joining me on the phone line right now from FutureSox, our good friend James Fox. How are you, my friend?
Good, man. How's it going?
I'm getting used to the new studio. You know, it's got a little bit of an echo. I'm trying to work out the echo. When you move into some new space, you got to play with it a little bit. It's getting better every show. I got a cable guy showing up because the internet was so bad here. I wasn't able to upload video. Like half the videos I try to send to YouTube make it, and half of them don't. So it's like roulette. So hopefully everything will be back to normal this weekend and into next week. And the White Sox are killing my dream too. They just started losing all of a sudden in September. I thought we weren't going to lose 100 games. And now in the last 9, you got to win 6 of them. That doesn't look good to me.
I know. It was looking like 63 and 99 was possible, you know, and everybody would kind of be it's like kind of best case scenario, right? Like we talked about this on our show on Sunday. And like a lot of people, I might have asked you this when you came on our show and told 2005 stories, right? Like we talked about like what would have been a successful season, right? And at the beginning of the year, I talked a lot about like I wanted some semblance of like a hitting infrastructure in place, right? I think they've done that under Ryan Fuller. And I also wanted like you to have 2 or 3 names you could tell me as like, hey, these guys like could be on their next good team, like a young core. I think they've done that too. And I also wanted them to be bad enough to like have top lottery odds because I just think it's like really important to have like one more super high pick. And like that's check, right? So like while I do still think it's a success, like sputtering to the finish here is kind of not great.
Yeah, it's not fun. I would have liked to have just seen it roll into the end of the year, because one of the things that I'm looking at is what's the locker room like? What's the culture like? And I didn't like the way it ended last year. And up until the last week, I was like, here we go. Will Venable's got his guys playing until the end, even though they really have nothing to play for. But you kind of did have something to play for. It should have been up on the board. Like, hey, we're not losing 100. Like, have some fun with it. You got these young guys, but are they maybe petering out because they're young? You got a lot of guys here who have not played a lot of baseball. I mean, Kyle Teal, Edgar Caro, Colson Montgomery's up here. You got a lot of guys that started the season in the minors. Maybe that's the problem as well.
Yeah, they've never played this much before. And you've seen it with the pitching, right? Where it's like, we've talked about this, like random fake injuries because guys have just never thrown this much before. And it's the same thing. I mean, I know I've talked about Tanner McDougal on your show, and he's in Double-A, and yeah, they're in the Double-A playoffs, and like they care about that. But like he's basically throwing 3 innings every start, and he'll like strike out 5 guys and then like go sit down, you know. But it's just, and people hate it, and even my co-host Ian is like, oh god, like another 3 innings start. But yeah, these guys are like past their career highs in innings, in games played, and all of this stuff. And it's definitely a factor because they don't have these like fungible veterans right now that they've had, but it's made the second half more fun, right? I think like last year it was hard to care, right? Like we're always going to have that 41 and 121 was our favorite team, right? But I feel like for me, like just like none of those players mattered. So I just cared so much less, even though it was like kind of like a punchline. Whereas like this year, like once these guys who look like they're going to matter were like up and they're playing well in the second half, it was just like much more meaningful. So, you know, I guess like that part was positive, but yes, like this, you know, maybe they can go on a little bit of a run here against San Diego and close it out.
Who's your core right now? I mean, you talked about that right at the beginning. You wanted to have a few guys who were going to be able to say, yeah, these guys are what we're building around. Like these guys are going to be on the team when the team is good. I mean, Kyle Teal, obviously. I mean, as we're sitting here right now, he's hitting 280 with an 806 OPS on the season. I know it's only 70 games and only 225 at bats, but that stands out to me. Who else do you add on to that list?
I think Teal and Colson Montgomery for sure, because I think even like with some of Colson's like struggles, like at the plate, he's been pretty good defensively, right? And one of the things I've talked about is like if he's a 250 hitter with a bunch of power, but he can play short, like that's a pretty valuable player, right? If he has to move to a corner, it's not as valuable, right? But I think he's really like kind of put himself on the map where like he'll at least be here. Colson, Teal, Caro, I like quite a bit. I'm curious to see what they do when like 2 catchers are part of your core, right? Like Do you move a guy? Do you play a guy at different positions? And then I think like Chase Maidra, I don't know that he's a starting second baseman on a playoff team, right? But he's a definite big leaguer. And even like a guy like Brooks Baldwin, can be on a team and play a bunch of different positions. Like it's young guys that matter. And then, like I think Miguel Vargas has kind of maybe shown what he is a little bit, but Chris, this is like what you've kind of been talking about for years on the free agent market, right? Where you just like wanted a few like solid big leaguers like that could hit. They have like multiple 2-WAR players, which is like not something that we could say before, right? Like, yeah, you need a star somewhere and like you got to figure that out. But if you have like 5 or 6 2-WAR players, like on the offensive side, like at least you're getting somewhere, right?
Yeah, you should be a team that could actually hover around 500 with that. And that's why I think that you want to add a few things in the offseason, and we're going to get into it. One guy that I didn't hear you mention, Lenyn Sosa. Where do you think he fits? Because we keep debating it. He'll get hot and he'll start hitting home runs. He's at 20 right now as we talk. And we'll say, hey, if he could hit 30 a year, he could be a DH. We'd be okay with that. Or maybe you move him into the corner outfield. I know he doesn't play good enough defense to be an everyday infielder. So where do you put him? Because look, this isn't a bad season for him. He's got 20 bombs. He's had times when he's been so red hot, he's carrying the team. What do you think of him long-term next year and beyond?
Yeah, he's a big focal point on our show because it's just a conundrum for me, and it's because of the defense, right? Like, to me, I think if Colson Montgomery can play short, it allows you to play Vargas at third. And to me, like, their biggest free agent addition this year should be like one of these left-handed first base types that is like pretty consistent. Like, like I don't think they're signing Kyle Schwarber, like news alert, but like a Ryan O'Hearn or Josh Naylor or one of these type of guys. Like if you give first base to a guy, that makes a lot of sense to me. And then I think when you have 2 catchers as part of your core, like you're going to have to DH one of them a lot. And I don't think you can get rid of Andrew Benintendi. So like, I don't know where Lenyn Sosa plays, right? Like, has he hit it enough to be like one of your top 9 guys? Like maybe. I just think there's like more important guys than him. I really wouldn't be surprised if he's like just moved in a trade for something different. I
mean, he feels like trade bait, right? Like that's kind of like you should be able to move a guy to hit over 20 home runs that you can kind of move around in a utility position to a team that's looking to add that and doesn't necessarily need him to start. That might give you something that plays a different position and is of equal value, right?
Well, like you want them to add more players, correct?
Yes.
So if you're adding more players, you can't keep all these guys. Like your team's basically set, kind of, if you want it to be. Like if Sosa's your first baseman, your whole infield and your whole outfield is accounted for, and catcher. And I want him to add some guys. So I just feel like something will get shaken up here at some point. I didn't include him as part of the core just because I don't know where he plays. Like I think he could hit. I've always thought he could hit. I've been saying it on your show and other shows. I thought he could hit, and then he took forever. I mean, he always started slow, but he started really slow in the big leagues. So yeah, I mean, we'll see. Like, is he better than a bench bat, right? Like, can he start for a bad team? Maybe. I just don't know like what position he plays every day, so it makes it a little bit of a challenge for me.
One of the things we talked about recently was pitching, and the thing I pointed out was I don't think you have more than 3 guys, let's say, that you could pencil into your rotation and feel comfortable with next year. I made the argument looking at free agent pitchers and Martin Perez's $10 million option is probably something you got to seriously consider picking up, and you probably have to add another arm after that because your young guys that are down in the minors are not ready yet. I mean, Noah Schultz doesn't look ready to me unless you're going to tell me otherwise. Hagen Smith doesn't look ready to me. Thorpe, I don't know when he's going to be well enough to pitch again and get back up here. And I don't want them to go in the next season with just a mishmash of guys that couldn't do it this year, had whips near 1.5, and we're putting too many guys on base and ERAs in the 4s and the 5s and say, well, we just think they're going to get better. What do you think they can do? What do you think is available to them? What do you think they should do?
Well, so I think Noah Schultz, Hagen Smith, Grant Taylor, and Tanner McDougal, those guys come to spring training as starters, hopefully, and those are like your premium type guys, right? But I do agree with you that I'm not sure. I mean, unless you move Taylor to the rotation, right? Like, I'm not sure any of those other 3 guys are like your best pitcher, like on the opening day roster. But I do think those are your like high end guys. I agree with you. They're going to have to spend money like on pitching, and it doesn't even have to be a long-term deal, but like 2 veteran starters maybe to help you get to June when you have like more of a complement. I think like Drew Thorpe closer to the All-Star break, Mason Adams, Kyle Busch. You have all these. The one thing that I'm not worried about, Chris, and we've been talking about this on our show. I think that this pitching, they can find like number 4 starters, like no problem. Like that, like they've shown that they can do it. They signed Eric Fetty. That was a great signing. They flipped him. You found Shane Smith. You signed Martin Perez, and like you found Hauser and then traded him for something. I just think they're going to be able to find back end type guys, right? So obviously that's not enough. You're going to have to find like the number 1 and 2 starter. I think those guys ultimately come from their system, but I do agree with you. They're not going to be on the opening day roster in 2026 just because of like how this season went. Like Noah Schultz, I'm glad it's a knee injury and not an arm injury, but he only threw 74 innings this year because of it. So that's kind of an issue. And then Hagen Smith has been just up and down. He was awesome last night in Double-A Birmingham with 10 Ks and 2 walks. I think, they're both here at some point in 2026, but I don't know what the opening day like rotation looks like. So I am with you there that it might be much of the same or like a couple of new, like cheaper veteran type guys. And then Shane Smith, obviously.
All right. So James Fox from FutureSox joining us here. I'm going to ask him a leading question and see where it goes.
Awesome.
This is how I'm picturing things talking to you after watching this season and talking to you right now here on Sox in the Basement with the pitching staff. That you have plenty of guys who can go out there, get innings, be competent pitchers in your system right now. And then you have a list of 4, maybe 5 guys that could end up being at the top of your rotation, that 1, 2, 3 spot, but they're not exactly ready yet. And so the team, knowing the team as you and I do, is not going to go out and spend a ton of money on a frontline starter. They're waiting for those guys to somehow make their way in there. And that's going to be a wait because they're not going to be here at the beginning of the year. So how do you see this shaking out in the offseason? Like, can I feel like this team could be more competitive next year? Not going for a World Series, not a favorite to win their division, but could be maybe a team that hovers around 500 and has a couple of runs and maybe it gives me hope where we're sitting around debating in the summertime, could we add something and kind of go for it and have some fun in the second half? Could they be that the way the pitching staff is set up right now? Because it sounds to me like you're like the hitting is here. Let's add some players. We can do it. But the pitching's behind. Am I seeing this the right way, James? How do you see the outlook for next year?
So I think you and I agree, but I don't know that they agree with us.
Okay.
I think you should be adding and like trying to win a wild card spot because
yes,
like look around at the division. I mean, Minnesota's going to be really bad. The other teams are fine, right? But like if you play like you played in the second half, like why can't you win 75 to 85 games
and get lucky in the postseason and have some fun? Yeah, I mean, exactly. You're not that far off.
I don't know that they're going to add enough to make us feel that way. But I do think they have to add something because like the low payroll is like their payroll is tiny. And that's why like bringing back Robert right now is a no-brainer once you didn't trade him, right? It's like $37 million committed and that's just Robert and Benintendi. If you went out and got a Josh Naylor and got a right-handed hitting outfielder that could complement some of the guys you have, and you get like a number 3 starter that we feel pretty good about and a bullpen guy, and like you're gonna see Braden Montgomery, Sam Antonacci is like a Mydroth type, but he hits left-handed. Like they have more guys coming too. Like this should be better next year. There's no reason why. This has to be another like spend nothing, watch the kids play, and then hope that there's not a lockout. Even though if you made me guess right now, I would say that we're underwhelmed by the off-season moves. And then that doesn't mean it can't be an exciting season because I think we're going to see young guys that we like, right? Like Braden Montgomery is exciting. Like that's going to be cool. But like, yeah, I would prefer that they add to this team and spend a little bit of money and see if you can, like maybe compete for something. I'm not totally sure yet, like how much they're going to spend.
What are they doing with Luis Robert Jr.? Are they picking up the option and trying to trade him, like in some weird like sign and trade type thing?
So. Yeah.
Yeah. In the offseason, do you think? Who do you think's moving off this team in the offseason?
I think there's no scenario right now where they decline the option. That doesn't mean that he'll be on the opening day roster, though.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like, once they didn't trade him, and there's all sorts of guys in town. I mean, Bruce Levine, but it's like, oh, decline his option and spend that. It's like, no, like that decision had to be made in July. If there was any chance that you were going to decline that thing, you had to take the crappy offer that you were given, right? They didn't do that, which clearly says, like, okay, we're going to keep this guy and then figure it out later. I'm sure the injury doesn't help, right? But, I mean, center field market's really bad. I wouldn't be totally surprised if they pick it up and trade him. I wouldn't be surprised if he's on the opening day roster. But, I mean, look, Robert's very unlikely to be on your next really good team, right? And I think that's the bottom line. So, yeah, they're going to trade him at some point. I just don't know when it is. I think they'd love to move off Andrew Benintendi. I don't know that anybody will take him, and I don't know how much money they'd be willing to spend. My idea would be to trade Benintendi for like a high-priced pitcher that's underachieved, because I feel like they could maybe get something out of that guy instead. I don't know what that deal looks like. Because to me, like, you could bring back Mike Tauchman as well, but I don't think you can bring back Mike Tauchman and Andrew Benintendi. Like, I'm cool if Mike Tauchman's back as your like left fielder against righties, but I don't think you can play him in right and Benintendi in left and bring the same team back. It just doesn't really make much sense to me.
All right, James Fox from FutureSox. I think you and I are on the same page on a lot of this stuff. Like, they have something here they're going to have to add, which means some of the guys that you kind of like, that you're wondering whether or not they're going to be something better for you, may have to be moved or moved out of the way. Luis Robert Jr., they're probably picking up that option, but they're probably moving him, and that would make the most amount of sense for them to do. They've got to add a little bit of payroll here, and there's no reason not to because of the way the division is set up and the way that your team is set up, and there's a lot of excitement coming. I love the fact you brought up Braden Montgomery. I keep thinking he's not going to get here next year. You sound like he's coming here next year.
Yeah, he's in Birmingham. He's coming. I mean, that he's close to the majors. I mean, he's hurt right now because he must have brittle bones because he's got a fracture of his foot after he got hit by a pitch. He's going to play in the Arizona Fall League. That's a hitter's league. If he's really good in the Arizona Fall League and the White Sox start him in Charlotte, we're going to see Braden Montgomery really, really quickly. I think he's, and that doesn't, look, they're not going to block him. That doesn't mean that they won't go sign some outfielder that we like, right? But they're not going to sign an outfielder to a 5-year deal to play right field because I think they think Braden Montgomery is going to play right field, and I'm fine with that. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't add to try to win baseball games in April and May.
Awesome. James Fox, FutureSox. Check him out. He's got his finger right there on the pulse of the minor leagues. Thanks for joining me, my friend.
All right, man. Thanks, Chris.
And we go from James Fox to the Sox Nerd. He's brought to you by the Village of Lamont. Want to experience a downtown with real history, great eats and drinks, and green spaces filled with adventure? Visit the Village of Lamont. Shop, dine, drink, explore, and see everything they have going on, including Pollyanna Oktoberfest. The day this episode comes out at the Forge, you still have time. Get out there. Come see me. I have a tent because of the Lamont Unlocked podcast. So I'm going to have Lamont Unlocked and Sox in the Basement stuff at my tent. You'll see me when you come walking in. Come over, say hi. Let's have a beer together at Pollyanna Oktoberfest at the Forge in Lamont and see everything they have going on at lamontdowntown.com. Nerd, what do you got for me?
Fellas, although it's only September 20th or so, I already know one thing I want to see from the White Sox next season. Come opening day 2026, Chase Meidroth should be leading off, and here's why. The scrappy infielder entered the weekend leading the major leagues with a .383 average, that's 18 for 47, and a .442 on-base percentage leading off games. With 5 doubles and 2 homers, he has compiled a .617 slugging percentage, which ranks behind only Buxton, Ohtani, and Carroll for the MLB lead among players with at least 47 at-bats starting games. While regular leadoff man Mike Tauchman hasn't been spectacular starting games with a .213, 262, 262 slash line, he has been serviceable overall, batting first, hitting .267 with a .358 on base percentage. Although it's a small sample size, Miguel Vargas has posted some fine numbers starting games. In 14 games there, Vargas is slashing .308, .357, and .462. Thanks to Meidroth and Vargas, the Sox are among the top teams in MLB leading off games, ranking tied for first with 10 doubles, fourth with a .291 average, and third with 41 hits. By the way, the Sox record for average leading off games is .404, set by Tim Anderson in 2020. The team record is .394, set in 1995. Lance Johnson, the one dog, hit .395 starting contests in that disjointed campaign. Leading off games isn't the only department where I've been digging deep. Tuesday marked the first time in franchise history that two number 64s squared off on the mound when the Sox' Shane Smith and the Orioles' Dean Kremer started against each other. And one last one. Heading into the weekend, the position with the White Sox top slash line was catcher at .281, .376, and .404. Last year, those numbers were .173, .217, and .291. That is nuts. Before I get to my zinger, I remind you that gems like these and long-form pieces are on my blog, which you can link to at soxinthebasement.com. My zinger, in honor of the 20th anniversary of the World Champions, I'm going to zing frequently about that team, throwing out some gems you may not know about the 2005 Sox. The Sox leadoff hitters in 2005 were Scott Podsednik, Pablo Ozuna, Timo Perez, Willie Harris, and Aaron Rowand. Scotty Pods was a beast starting games at .333, .419, and .417 in 124 contests. But Pablo Ozuna was really good too, hitting .333 with a .419 OBP in 20 outings. That's it, guys. Probably more than you wanted to know about game starters, 64s, and productive catchers.
Sox in the basement. Sox in the basement. Sox in the basement.
Sox in the Basement. Heard everywhere podcasts can be found, and always on soxinthebasement.com.